parents will tell you. Recording in progress. All of your children will very soon find out that we play a lot of community building games. So one of them is called Common Ground, one of our favorites. So we have, over remote learning, we adapted this to work for the virtual world. So here's how we play it. Everyone, we're going to ask that you turn off your video and listen to the statement, and then turn on your video if the statement is true for you. It looks like it is mostly parents on the call right now, on the Zoom, but there are probably some students around too. So these may be, we will keep them relevant to adults as well as parents as well as students. Okay, so I see Miguel. Okay, so this is how it goes. So listen to the statement I'm going to say, and then keep your camera off for now, but then turn on your camera if the statement is true for you. All right. I have common ground with everybody who speaks more than one language. So hi, multilingual community members. So glad to have you. All right, go ahead and turn off your camera now. I'll do it for mine too. Now, I also have common ground with everybody who has watched part of the basketball, the NBA finals this round. I hope I'm saying what that is called. NBA finals, right? That's what they are. All right, so we've got some basketball fans. Cool, welcome basketball community. All right. Next one, so go ahead and turn off your cameras. I have common ground with everybody who loves to draw. Welcome, artist community. All right, so wave hello to your fellow artists. Cool. All right, we'll do a few more. I have common ground with everybody. This is a tricky one. We'll see who saw our MS 839 Spring 2022 musical, Xanadu Jr. Cool. So lots of folks who have already been in our school and seen our school in action. All right. Next one. I have common ground with my MS 839 community who looks forward to playing sports at MS 839. Who looks forward to playing sports at MS 839. Great. Welcome, athletes. Welcome. Great. Last one, I have common ground with my MS 839 community who is feeling at least a little nervous for 6th grade. Who's feeling at least a little bit nervous for 6th grade. Maybe even so nervous that you're hiding from the camera. Totally, totally understandable. All right, so we are here for you. If you are not a little bit nervous, please let us know how that works for you. But we are here, and hopefully at the end of this call, you'll feel a little more excited and a little less nervous than you feel right now. Thanks, everybody. That is your first MS 839 community building initiative. You have all passed.
All right, so thanks for that, Natasha. We're just gonna run through our agenda for this call tonight, just some of the things that we'll cover here. We just did our icebreaker, and then we're going to go into what makes our school, makes MS 839 so special. And we'll go into a glossary of terms as well as what we believe. We're going to go through a sample 6th grade schedule, as well as some sample projects. And then we'll have some folks talk about what restorative justice and mental health looks like at our school, a little intro to the PTA, and then we'll have time for some logistics, some forms, technology, etc., and end with a Q&A in some breakout rooms. Okay. So let's start out with what makes our school so special. We've gathered here some photos, a collage of photos from, these are all from this year. And a lot of these, most of these actually are 6th graders from this year. So you see here, we have a picture of our musical. We had the return of theater this year in our school with Xanadu Jr. It was really beautiful and impressive to see the kids singing, dancing, performing. It was beautiful. Then underneath that, we have our soccer team. They're going to the finals next Wednesday, I think, or next week. We got some photos from field work that we do. We went to the Gowanus Canal. We went to Prospect Park, had some science field work. And then super special this year was the first year that our GSA was in the Brooklyn Pride Parade. So here's a photo of that with the little, our banner. It says, "There are no passengers on Spaceship Earth. We are all crew." And we're going to go into what that means to be crew, not passengers, in a moment. Here's just some photos from this year. Get you excited.
So MSA 39 is a New York City outward bound school. You probably all know that. These are our core values. So we believe that learning is challenging, and learning happens when students are nudged, supported to challenge themselves, and are able then to do more than they think they can. We believe that learning is active. So you saw pictures before, field work. We try to make our learning activities as authentic to the real world as possible and as connected to real world problems, real world issues. We believe that learning is meaningful, and our students, we focus on depth and deep understandings, and want students to always be making connections to real world issues. We believe that learning is collaborative. So we work a lot, very hard to make sure our classrooms are deeply collaborative ones where kids are really able to learn from one another, and do so joyfully, do so respectfully, and sort of do social emotional learning as they're doing academic learning. And also learn that learning is public. So we try to have lots of opportunities for students to present their learning to audiences within and beyond the school.
All right, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about what crew is. So a lot of schools often call it advisory. We call it crew. It's basically, well, like an advisory group. It's made up of around 12-ish students per crew. We play a lot of games. We have a lot of circles. It's the same class time as like a normal class block, where we meet together. You're with the same kids all year. So you get to really get to know each other. You really get to know your crew leader. We reflect a lot on our learning, and we celebrate our learning. We go through the good and also the bad, and kind of unpack all those things together. Your crew leader helps facilitate student-led conferences. So we do those instead of parent-teacher conferences. We believe, as a student, you have the agency, and you're the one doing all the learning. So it's up to you to kind of reflect and talk through all the new things that you learned. Your crew leader gets to know your child very, very well. They're the most connected to your child. They spend the most time with your child. And also your crew leaders, your point person for all academic and just any requests throughout the year. So if you look, there's a crew this year. I think it's Isabella's crew, Isabella and Natasha's crew, together at our Gowanus Canal field work. And below that is a sample. I'm not sure which crew it's from, but also Isabella's crew. Just like hopes and celebrations that they created. And you grow a lot together throughout the year. You spend so much time together. And it's really just like a great space where, kids kind of have like this core foundation, where they make their friends, and, they have people to rely on, especially like the crew leader aspect. So it's a really great space. We make some really great memories in that time. And it's a lot of learning happens. So it's really cool. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about a sample schedule. Just want to let everyone know that the schedule changes each year. What we do know for next year is that the school starts at 8:45. It ends at 3:30, and we have early release days on Wednesday, which ends at 2:30. So just to kind of talk a little bit about how our schedule works. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. This is, again, sample schedule. It might look a little bit different next year. We have something called morning meeting. Because of COVID and everything, it's kind of changed form throughout the past 2 or 3 years. Before COVID, we used to meet all together in the gymatorium, and a teacher or even sometimes students would put on or have a presentation and talk through a certain thing. And it's a really cool space where everyone comes together. A normal day, you have your core classes, you have science, you have humanities, you have reading, all those classes you have 4 times a week, math, obviously. We have recess time, which is right now in the schoolyard. Sometimes it's in the gym when it rains. Obviously you have lunch and gym some days. And then we have crew, again, this is up to change, but we have crew 4 days a week. Like I said, just kind of like a normal class block. But this is what it looks like. You might see Spanish and visual arts and media lab. You and your child will have the opportunity to take all of these classes. We cycle through arts. We cycle through Spanish and theater and music. And yeah, I think that pretty much covered all those things. Natasha, is there anything you want to add to that?
I would just add I see just from last names, I think we have a lot of siblings coming in. So do note, so you may note that we are starting earlier next year. So we are starting at 8:45 instead of 9.
Yep, cool. All right. All right, so here's some sample 6th grade learning tasks from this year, which we're really pumped to talk about. I think Natasha, go for it.
Okay. So this was a project that we did as part of our expressions and equations or algebra units. And we looked at real life conundrum and dilemma, which is what is going on with the prices of the delivery, the hidden fees with Seamless and Uber Eats and other food delivery companies. So we used real prices from Susie's Roti Parlor around the corner from our school. And we compared the cost of a couple different items if you pick them up from the restaurant and get them on the restaurant's website, and if you order from Uber Eats and if you ordered from Seamless. So it was very interesting to all of us. And we had students think about what they were really doing was writing and solving expressions and equations to find unknown quantities. And we emphasize communicating math thinking using words and visual models in addition to calculations. So you may notice these rows where it says visual model, tape diagram, or number line. So we were having students represent the different parts of the cost, including the fees, to figure out what was the actual cost per curry goat roti in these different places and these different ways of purchasing it. So it was really, students really enjoyed this task. They had a lot of rich discussions about food delivery and about wondering how the fees correlated to what delivery workers were getting paid or weren't getting paid. And so got into some questions about and discussions around equity and social justice there. But I think this really shows what we try to do with math, which is to get students to think creatively, to get students to think about math in real world context. Algebra can seem very, very abstract, but we try to bring it to students' real life experiences and help them solve problems that are authentic and problems that we want to be able to solve and figure out, and help us understand the world and how it works. So that's a sample math task, and not every math task is like this. But we do, I think it does represent sort of what we aspire to in math.
All right, so here we have a slide with the sample humanities project from this year. Humanities at MSA 39 is an interdisciplinary multi-subject class. So it combines social studies, reading, and writing. So ELA as well as social studies. And so we develop our own curriculum while using the next gen standards for reading, writing, speaking, listening, as well as the New York State social studies standards. So this is a project from our unit titled Impact, in which students began studying climate change, and they studied climate change through the lens of natural disasters and hurricanes. So students began by researching a hurricane. In this case, it was Hurricane Katrina, and how climate change may have impacted that hurricane. So there was the social studies lens of research skills, gathering data, reading articles, and then writing this synthesis paragraph. Here we have a sample. The next step of this project was to interview a hurricane survivor from the hurricane that they studied. So here is a profile page that a student made for Aslan Makbul, who was a Hurricane Katrina survivor. Students interviewed Aslan and other hurricane survivors, and then created these profile pages based off of those interviews. The learning target for this was, I can write to inform an audience about important ideas, concepts, and information relating to climate change and natural disasters.
All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about science. So this is from our first unit or expedition is what we call it. This is a Prospect Park field guide. Here are two samples that I really liked, two examples of student work. In science, we really try to make it as hands-on as possible. We learn a lot of general science, but for this first expedition, for this first like project, we really focused on like the unseen world. The first part of it was like we had students kind of swab different areas of the classroom, and like in some cases like different parts of their bodies. Like we had one kid swab between his toes, and they they swab on petri dishes, and they analyze the growth, and it's kind of just like grappling with this understanding that there's life everywhere, right, other than us. So then we go on something called field work, where we walk to Prospect Park and we take samples from the lake, like really like sludgy, gross lake samples. We bring them back to the classroom and we analyze them under microscopes. And these guides are basically all things that that student has seen under the microscope. So a lot of different creatures. We have like segmented worms. We saw some tardigrades this year, which was really, really cool. And students were, like analyzing them and then labeling the different parts of them, identifying whether they're multicellular or unicellular. We really emphasized using the microscope, and again, like the whole hands-on thing is something that's really important to the science team. The 2 learning targets we use were, I can use a microscope as a tool for investigating living things, and I can use characteristics of living things to evaluate if something's an organism or not. Our focus was like, how do we know something's living? And yeah, I mean, we try to, like I said, make it really fun and interactive. But this is definitely like one of my favorite parts of the year.
Okay, we also have, apart from humanities class, we have a block as well for reading. At MSA 39, we value students' love of reading and support all students' growth as readers. We have a few different reading intervention classes. So we have a phonics class, a rewards and STARI, as well as independent reading for students who don't need that intervention. So in those independent reading classes, students may do book clubs, create projects, and participate in regular conferences with teachers. And here's just one of the books that we're finishing up our year with. It's called Take Back the Block. Students really enjoying it, this book.
So I'm just going to talk briefly about mental health and restorative justice. So middle school is a big time for big feelings, and even more so with coming off of the pandemic. So we have a lot of people and here to support students in the transition to middle school. And we have a counseling team made up of a school counselor, a social worker, and lots of interns and graduate programs who work with students in small groups, both at risk and as mandated counseling from IEPs. And also we work a lot to help students make friends from the beginning of the year to throughout the year, and deal with conflicts as they come up. So that's something that one thing that's somewhat unique about our school is we have students coming from so many elementary schools that very few students know very many people. So most students are in a similar boat of knowing only a tiny handful of any other students. So we work really hard in crew and with our counseling team to make sure that students don't feel lonely at the beginning of the year, and really have lots of opportunities to connect with other students. So we are a restorative justice school. So we believe that when kids make mistakes, which lots of kids do in middle school, that the best way for them to learn from it is to have opportunities to reflect on the harm that was caused, and figure out ways to repair it. So that is, we think that young people learn and grow best that way. So our mental health and counseling team works very closely with our restorative justice program.
Okay, sorry, I was just replying to a question in the chat here. Someone had quickly asked how much time we spend outside of school. Depends. This year has been the past couple of years obviously have been a little bit skewed, right? It's been a challenge, but in general, as the expedition trucks along, kids get out of the class quite a bit more as they come to the end. Is that right, Natasha? They tend to do a little bit more getting out of the class as they get deeper into their expedition.
Well, yeah, we try to launch expeditions also with kids getting out into
With
the
trips.
world.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say it's not the case that like kids are out every day or every week even, but definitely several times throughout the year. Yeah, I said that should we let Lauren jump in and say hi just while we have her?
Yeah, definitely. I saw her and I think she may have popped off again. She was
Okay.
in and out. Yeah. When she comes back, we'll get her. I will be very brief. I don't want to take up a whole lot of time with kind of the back end of stuff. But one thing I did want to make you aware of is that when you come to us at the beginning of the year, it might be digital, it might be hard copy, but we're going to give you a packet of forms. We're going to want your blue card, We have you fill that out every year. That's your emergency contact information. Super important. I can't stress that enough. We do have instances where we just can't reach people and we need to contact other people that you may have put on for an emergency. And that's happened this year. And we've had a couple kids who we didn't have blue cards for, and that was a problem. So putting that out there, top of your radar. You'll get a walking trip permission slip because our kids do go out. Oftentimes a crew leader will just say, you know what, let's get out of the building. Let's go for a walk. We need to have the walking trip slip on file. There'll also be that the NYC DOE photo consent form. And then, and so that'll come in a little stack to you. I'm not sure if it's going to be digital or hard copy yet. Might be a combination of both. And then the other thing I want to stress is how important it is that you're active and current with your NISCA account, the NYC student account. It links into your grades, to attendance, to reporting issues. It's super important, and you can access like anything you need, transportation, busing, it's all there. And the DOE is really trying to ramp it up. I was just on a parent coordinator meeting today, and they're like, pitch it to your families. And I am, because it's just really useful. You can get a lot of questions answered right there in your account. Then you don't have to deal with anybody else, and it's already there for you. In terms of communication, we send a lot of emails. I'm a mom. I got a couple kids in the system too. And I'm trying to be mindful of it, but you'll see we do send a lot of emails. But I try and be very like succinct and try not to be too spammy with it. We also have something called Constella. It hasn't been great for us because I know that as also like a middle school parent myself, it tends to kind of, your interest in that kind of stuff of like communicating with other families drops off a little bit. But yet for 6th grade, I think it's super helpful. And I'm going to create a Constella social group for you guys that you can access. So that should be hopefully helpful. But you do have to join it to participate. We don't sign you up. You have to sign yourself up. I'll send out information for that shortly. This year we did a newsletter, a bi-monthly newsletter, which was really fun. It gave you a little bit, you learned a little bit about what kids are doing every 2 weeks. And that was translated into English, into Spanish and Bengali. I'm not sure if we're going to do it the same way next year. That's kind of debate. It's fun because every year we can tweak it a little bit. But that was fun. We occasionally backpack stuff home, but you're going to see that's a lot rarer for us to be doing that. But occasionally if something like our kids went to a baseball game a couple weeks ago or last weekend, you'll get a backpacked flyer home for something like that. And then tech, right? Just a quick thing. We use both, we use Chromebooks, Google Chromebooks, and then we also use Macs, and those are in every single classroom, which is nice. So there's computers everywhere. Our kids are very tuned in and turned on with that stuff. We also give every kid their own MS-839 email that they'll have for the duration of their stay with us. And then Lewis is not on the call with us, but he's our tech lead. He's also was going to Spanish. He's going does a lot of Spanish interpreting for us, and he's a terrific guy. I wish he could be on the call right now, but he's also a very good person to know. And then I don't think Lauren's popped back on. Okay, but I think that's it for that kind of stuff. Yeah, and now I guess I'd like to hand it over to Nancy, if you're ready to have a little word.
Hi, nice to meet everyone here. So I'm Nancy Cruz. My daughter is Giselle, and she is a rising 7th grader. She's a 6th grade Finch. That's her bird group. Yes, I want to welcome everyone, and I will be the president of the PTA next year. We still have position of co-president open if any 6th grade families want to jump into the fray. We are a wonderful community here at the school. I've been so pleased with just everyone who I've had the pleasure to work with. The teachers are amazing, the administration's amazing, and the PTA is amazing too. Where we have wonderful people. I've made some really lovely friends, and I would welcome anyone who's interested in getting involved in the PTA to get in touch with me. I will put my info in the chat. We have a couple of open positions still, and recent budget cuts have necessitated us to like really get started with our fundraising. And so we're actually, a few of us are getting together next Wednesday at my home. If anyone's interested in joining, shoot me an email to start like sort of brainstorming some ideas for some fundraising for next year. So if that's of interest, do please shoot me an email and I'll give you my address so you can come on over. I'll make some coffee and we can introduce ourselves and powwow as well. So anyway, I look forward to meeting many of you. And yeah, I think, did I leave anything out, Leah, that I had to say?
There was, Tangi's on the call too. She just popped into.
Oh my
here.
God, I'm sorry, Tanji.
That's
You
no,
should
no,
have
that's
gone
she
No, no, I
just.
just, I
just
popped
got
on
here.
super late.
Yeah, and you
Okay.
actually had, there was a link to a sign up sheet, right? That we want to throw into the chat.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, right on.
Sure. Let me find it. Yeah, here we are. Okay. Should I greet folks?
Please do. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Tangi Murray, and I am the outgoing PTA co-president. I'm outgoing in general too. I just heard that for the first time. But I've been at the school for 2 years. I have a daughter who is in 7th grade this year, going into 8th grade next year. And I completely love the school, the leadership, the teachers, the values have meant so much to not only my child, but our entire family. I've served on the PTA for the past 2 years and I've gotten so much out of it. I heard Nancy mention that she's made great friends on the PTA and on the executive board, and I would concur. It's just a really lovely community, and I feel very fortunate to have been a part of it. As I mentioned, I'm the outgoing PTA co-president, but I will be on the executive board next year, working alongside Nancy and supporting her and working on fundraising and all the things that our school needs to thrive in the coming years. And I can't wait to meet you in person. Hopefully I can get by the in-person meetup. Is it Saturday, Leah? Next Saturday though, right?
Yeah, it's the 25th.
Okay, so hopefully I can get by there, but if not, I look forward to meeting you all and seeing your children and your faces in person before long. So welcome. And I will also put my email in the chat in case anyone has any questions. And Carolyn's iPad, MSA 39 goes up to 8th. Oh, someone answered that. Hi, Natasha. I thought I was like doing something, but it's been answered. Yes, it goes up to 8th. So I'm really sad that next year will be our last year there. I do have a younger child who's at another elementary school. And so fingers crossed she can join the 839 family when it's her time. But good to see all of your faces and I look forward to meeting you.
Thank you, Tangi. And then JD Davids is our other co-president, and he couldn't make it tonight, but he sends his regards. You can also reach him at pta.president@ms839.org. There was another question in the chat I saw real quick. It was, how many of the students get involved in the 839 after school program? You know what? I will stay. I think, are we ready? Are we doing breakout rooms next? Is that what's on the agenda next?
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Does anyone want to frame the breakout rooms first?
Sure.
Yeah.
We thought that rather than have everybody be on one giant Zoom Q&A, that it would make sense to offer some breakout rooms with sort of subtopics. So I will be in a room for questions about academics and IEPs. I would say also English as a new language supports. And then Isabella and Miguel will be in another room to talk about social emotional learning, restorative justice, and crew. And then Leah will be here in the main room to talk logistics. So you should be able to join. You should at the bottom right see the option to join a breakout room. So you can go ahead and do that. And you will be able to move back and forth. So if you want to, pop into multiple breakout rooms, that's all right too.
Excellent. And then if you have kind of general questions and want to hang back and hang with me, that's fine too. Happy to answer those as well. Okay, they're open? Yeah. Okay, great. I think everybody's seeing them, right? Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Let's see, is Sam Marks here? Is Sam here? Hey, Sam. Okay, so you had asked about the after-school program, RTS, Roads to Success. Yeah. How many students get involved? Actually, this year was a significant chunk, more than in prior years. I was actually surprised, which was really great. They have lots of different programming offered. They have a sports track, they have an arts track, they have a STEM track. And kids can choose one, and it's they change it from year to year, but it's usually like 3 or 4 days a week they choose their primary, they call it a major, and then on the 5th day of the week, if they go the full time, they can do something else, they mix it up. But then they do all sorts of other kind of random things. They'll do cooking, they do sewing, they do movie night. They also offer camp over things like the holiday breaks. So for example, if you're around for spring break, they'll offer camp essentially, and they'll take the kids to Six Flags, they'll take them bowling. They do fun stuff that way too. And if you only want to do 1 or 2 days a week, that's fine. You just need to make sure you have the paperwork filled out, and you just have a conversation with them about what kind of days you need. And they're very flexible, which is nice. Right.
Hey, Leah.
Yes. Hey.
Hi, good evening. I heard you say the school starts a little earlier now at 8:45, but
Yeah.
what if students need to be there earlier than that? What are their options?
Yep. So the first week of school, it doesn't kick in right away, but once we get rolling, we open the building at 8 for kids.
Okay.
So they can come in, they can grab a breakfast. We have little bag breakfasts. That's kind of a grab and go. And then they can go to the gym. They can sit in the cafeteria. They can go up to the library and hang out. And then, yeah. So that's open. Yep. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I had a question in the chat about theater. Is theater an after school club? It can be, depends. For the most part, they usually focus on the end of the year production, which I think they started rehearsing. God, Tangi, do you remember when they started rehearsing for that?
In January, and I think they did,
January.
I feel like they did auditions around Thanksgiving, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a beautiful and long road.
Yeah, it was a great performance. But then there's also other kinds of theater electives that 8th graders can do. And then this year we had clubs during the school day, so that because we wanted kids to be able to do these things, not necessarily after school. Sometimes kids can't attend those, so we wanted to do them during the day. Let's see, is there a contingent of students who travel by bike to the school? I don't know about a contingent, but I know that there's groups of kids that come for sure. The issues are, okay, there is an issue. We did have a couple of bikes stolen from the front bike racks in front of the building this year, but we also have a bike room inside. And so that's what we encourage you to do, is bring it inside. It gets very crowded. We share it with the whole building. We have 2 other schools in our building, and we're a big bike building. So that's kind of it's a mess. They're everywhere, but we encourage you to use that. And if you're okay with the mess, you can use that. Yeah, recommendations and support or cautions, right? So I recommend you bring it inside. And then if you do it outside, make sure you've got a really good lock, because I think the locks that were broken were not so hot. Yeah. I think, did I get everybody else? Okay. Are there any other questions in here that I can help with? And do you guys want to hop into the other breakout room too? So, Lauren Shukoff is our AP, and I think she's having technical problems with the child. She was on for about 2 seconds here, and then she had to hop off because she's got a little toddler who had a meltdown. Michael Perlberg, many of you may have met him already. He's our principal. He had some personal stuff come up. His father-in-law passed, so it's caused a whole lot of kind of backup in his schedule, and so today he wasn't able to make it, but you'll definitely meet him. We're hoping that as we advance and we get beyond COVID more, we'll do more things in person, and you'll meet him for sure if you haven't already. Okay, bye, Erin. Thank you. All right, so I guess I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I can address for you guys while we're here. What could be of interest for you right now? What happens on the shorter day? Very good question. It is a big after school day for kids because we do dismiss, I guess we're going to be dismissing it. It's at 2:30. That's professional development. We got a grant from, it's called a PROS grant. And so that's an opportunity. We had to apply for it and we get extra funding to allow our teachers to do professional development. And a lot of what we did this year was we did a lot of equity work. And we brought in an organization. Oh God, it's totally, they're a fantastic organization, but they worked with us as a staff on race and equity issues and helping us to be better individuals working with that so that we could help our students. And we got into some pretty deep stuff. We invited some of our SLT and our PTA to attend as well. So there were parents working with us on that. And that was pretty intense, but it was fantastic. And that's actually it's that type of stuff that we do on that day. And for kids that do need aftercare on those days, or they can't leave, they need to stay in the building until they can be picked up at what would be our regular dismissal time. They can go to RTS and they just go straight downstairs. But again, you do need to fill out the paperwork, which we will share in the fall or probably, at the end of, I don't know. It's hard to say right now with the schedule. We have middle school, our school is going to be doing summer rising at 88. We're partnered with MS 88. So that's where I'll be for a good chunk of the summer is over in their building. Let's see, anything else? Oh, Tanji, you want to talk a little bit about the, I guess maybe some about what you guys did over the course of the year as PTA?
Sure. I was just putting in the chat, the name of the equity group is
Oh, thank you.
Culturally Responsive Teaching.
CSRE.
.org. .com. Sorry, I'm so like .org in my brain. My nonprofit brain is like everything is .org. It's culturally responsive teaching.com. Whoa. Yeah, so sorry, just type in .com. I can't really even cut and paste this. I'm a mess. But yeah, so this year, I mean, it's been interesting because the last 2 years we were mostly remote. And so I'm looking forward to being able to build community in a bigger and better and more direct way, ideally in person with everyone this year. Middle school is definitely different from elementary school because you're only here for 3 years. And so it's even more important, I feel, to try to foster that sense of community as much as we can. On the PTA, we did, working with culturally responsive teaching.com, we did, I want to say like a series of 4 or so equity workshops throughout the year. We've also had other programming such as suicide prevention workshops for parents, and then some fun stuff. And we found some ways to connect over Zoom. We've definitely had, we've pretty much done everything we've been doing over Zoom. So from a fundraising and gathering standpoint, 2 years ago, we hosted a cooking event. One of our parents is an amazing Brooklyn chef, Sohee Kim. She has 2 restaurants. One is Gage and Tollner and one is Insa in Gowanus. And so we did a dumpling cooking night with Sohee one evening. We've done, some in-person events such as like movie nights and things that were outside in the schoolyard once we could host events outside. And we had a masquerade theater night that was also a Zoom fundraiser event. And all of our fundraisers, I will say, we are throwing that word out a lot because it's important, especially with the budget cuts. But everything we do at our school is on a sliding scale and everything is a suggested donation. And we really, really just want to be able to build community and meet everyone and have everyone participate as much as possible, regardless of your ability or willingness to contribute to the PTA. And yeah, it's just a really special place.
Cool. Oh, thank you, Kenji. All right, I'm gonna close the breakout rooms. I want to bring everybody else back. Were there any questions from anybody else? Or did you guys want to hop into a breakout room? You okay? Everybody? Okay.
I have a question, Leah, because I just
Yeah.
recently heard it. So school
Yeah.
starts at 8:45 next year?
Yep,
Dang it.
I know. I'm
My
kind of
new
like,
school shuffle is gonna be like not working in my favor.
I know I've got mixed feelings. I was so nice. I was
I
so happy with
do.
it. Yeah.
Oh my
All
gosh, that gap between my 8:20 drop off and my 9 o'clock drop off has been golden the past 2 years.
Oh, sorry.
Good to
Yeah.
know. Good to know.
Yeah. And then, right. Okay. Everyone's coming back in. Right on. Okay. All right. I hope I didn't get you guys at a bad moment, but I want to bring you in before because we were starting to hit our time here.
Okay, there were still questions, but also, Tanji, while you're still on there, the budget came up, and it came up in the context of asking about after school programs and sports for next year. So I was saying that, we really hope to be able to offer the kind of programming we've had. And right now, we don't really have a path for that. So we need parents, we need political and advocacy, and we need creativity and money. So I did encourage folks to get involved with the PTA right now.
Thank you. And I will put in the chat again. I see some folks are in there already. We had a PTA newsletter specific sign up sheet that I'll add in the chat again. And just for anyone who's not aware, the PTA comms channels are separate from the school's administration's comms channel. So Leah, obviously, Michael and Lauren and your child's teachers will always be able to email you directly. The PTA won't have access to your email addresses to send you PTA updates unless you opt in to our mailing list. And so that's the link I just put into the chat. So if you could add your name, we can start sending you some tidbits. We won't abuse it. We don't use it that often, but there are certain times, specifically now, given the budget cuts, where the PTA has more leeway to email messages from the United Federation of Teachers or other things that directly impact our kids and families that the school administrators may not be able to. So it is great if you can take a moment to sign up for that.
Thanks, Tanji. I know there were a couple more questions I think that people had about academics, so I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes after.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Natasha. So if you're cool, if all your questions have been answered, thank you for joining us. It's been lovely. You'll hear more from me. Oh, one thing I neglected to mention, please make sure I have all the emails that you want communications at. Like what I sent out today, the 5:30 reminder for this, those were, if you didn't get that reminder, it means I don't have your email. So I'm assuming it's fine because you're all here, but spread the word. That's one of the big ways we communicate. So thank you for coming.
It looks like Arthur, do you have a question?
Matt does. Hi
Matt.
there.
Hey, Matt.
So just probably a couple of logistic questions. So one, why does school end early on Wednesdays? And two, why are there not lockers? That's it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll start with the locker question. That's a good question. I think the way they designed the building, the halls would be too narrow if they had lockers in them. And frankly, I think that was a really silly decision, but we are mindful of that so that we don't give students gigantic textbooks to carry around. We'll give them an excerpt from it to carry. So I had a kid who went to another school in D15 and she's got back injuries from the damn backpack. So believe me, we're mindful of that. We let kids leave things in different rooms. We're a small community. It's not hard to find things when you set them down usually.
We also don't use textbooks.
We
So
don't, right.
we're not carrying around textbooks.
Yeah, it's
Right,
a lot
so
of
they don't have
it's
to
a lot
carry.
of paper, a lot of handouts and
Yep.
and digital sometimes. So their backpacks, the average backpack in school isn't heavy. Pretty light.
And then the second part of your question is why do we dismiss early on Wednesdays? Because we do professional development that we we were able to we work with we got a pros grant. Is that correct, Natasha? It's the grant, right? That enables us to have the Wednesday early dismissal.
I don't think it's a grant, but it's a program that and that's actually the number. Our school day is just distributed differently. So our school day is actually a little bit longer, our normal school day, than a school day at a school that doesn't have early release.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then Natasha, was there any other curriculum or academic questions that you think you had or?
There was a question about state tests and test prep. So we do state tests. We administer New York State tests. We have lots of students who take them and lots of students who opt out of them. We don't do much explicit test prep. We do make sure that our curriculum is aligned to the same standards that are tested in the New York State tests. And we do provide, if students are feeling nervous about the state tests and do want suggestions for how to study for them or whatever, we do provide that on if kids ask us or parents ask us.
Looks like Sam, were you raising? It looks like you had a raised hand.
Yes. Yeah, I had a question about like study skills, general organization. I assume that happens in the crew situation. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a big component of crew. There's the sort of social emotional support, but also academic support. And we do work with students on organization. Often if their backpacks are too heavy, it's because they have papers and papers that should have been taken out at home and that they're just carrying around with them. And we do really try to provide supports for executive functioning in crew as well as in core classes. So lots of months.
Apologies if you answered this one because I got kicked off Zoom for a minute, but any guidance about like phones and technology and like all of my friends have a phone and when can I get a phone and how do you guys think about it as a school and in terms of the community you're trying to build?
We really, really don't want students on their phones at school. And we also don't want to have to hassle with taking kids' phones away. So we ask that students turn them off when they come into morning meeting and keep them off for the whole day. Anyone else want to add on to that?
Yeah, I was going to say phones they're very problematic. We're having a whole generation of kids come out of the pandemic with like this extra third appendage, and we're seeing it in their ability to concentrate in class. I have a kid in 7th grade whose school uses the Yonder bag. So they toss it in and it clicks it shut. The administration clicks it shut, like they've got some kind of remote control, and you don't have access to your phone all day, but they still have their pouch with their device, but it's locked away. And we're kind of throwing around a few ideas. Maybe we're going to put up a little what looks like a little like row of pouches at the entrance to a class. Maybe kids throw in their phones there, but they've become a real problem. And it's not just us, it's everywhere. And so we struggled a lot with kids and their phone use this year. So we're going to try and kind of like nip it in the bud with your kids proactively, and it might come out sounding really harsh, but or to the child at least. But we, as adults, we see how it's panning out, and it's not pretty. So that's kind of stay tuned about the policy, but it's a kind of like a 3 strikes you're out policy. If we see it, we warn you. The second time we take it and we put it in our office, and I usually give back at the end of the day. 3rd time we call the parent and we say, what do you want us to do? And sometimes we make contracts. Sometimes the kid will drop it off with me in the office at the beginning of the day. Who knows? It's a variety, but the 3rd time we call you, because at that point it's out of control. We've had multiple calls to families well beyond the 3rd call. So heads up, that's something that we're really thinking about deeply to try and nip it in the bud for your kids. So just putting that out there. Yeah. Okay. So anything else since we're all here? So we've presumably answered every single question. I'm here. You can always email me You know, you've got my email. You can always email our PTA presidents if you feel more comfortable going that route. They're super responsive. They've always have been. And then you can, of course, reach out to Natasha and Miguel and Isabella if you have any additional questions. So I think, are we